Welcome to this short introductory video regarding the Accessing UCT Staff and/or Students for Research Purposes Policy and Standard Operating Procedures. This video is intended for researchers who are internal to or based at UCT. In this video, we aim to raise awareness about UCT's policy and standard operating procedure for accessing UCT staff and/or students and their data for research purposes. We'll call this the Access Policy throughout. We also aim to outline the purpose of the policy and procedures, to go through a few key aspects of the policy and SOP, and to share some resources with you. These resources are aimed to strengthen and reward responsible research practice at UCT and to grow an environment in which responsible conduct of research can flourish. The first important point to note is to whom this policy applies. It applies to anyone who wants to access UCT staff and/or students or use their data for research purposes. For the rest of this video, we will use the phrase UCT community to refer to UCT staff and/or students. Remember, this informational video is intended to guide researchers based at UCT on accessing the UCT community. If you are a researcher external to UCT, please exit this video and rather view the one entitled Accessing the UCT Community for Research Purposes for External Researchers. You may be asking yourself, why do we need such a policy? UCT is committed to protecting the rights, dignity, and welfare of its staff and students. As such, appropriate levels of ethical and institutional review and approval are provided for in the Access Policy and SOP. The research interests of researchers at UCT at all levels, from students to senior academic staff, may relate to staff and students as participants in vital research questions. The ability for staff and students to participate in research is to be both used and conserved as a valuable collective resource. The Access Policy and SOP also seek to promote best practice in the generation of knowledge to protect the university and the participants from foreseeable harm and to spread the burden of impacts upon researched persons, all in a transparent and publicly accountable manner. The definition of research used in the policy is a systematic investigation including research development, testing, and evaluation, designed to develop or contribute to generalizable knowledge. By extension, if you are planning to publish or make the data public in any form, you should, as best practice, engage with your Research Ethics Committee regarding their requirements around applications for such projects. This policy applies to any proposed research into the UCT community in whole or in part, including research conducted or led by departments, divisions, or units using staff and student cohorts of their own or collaborating UCT structures, whether the research is of a developmental nature or otherwise. This policy applies to both requests for data and to requests that contemplate interactions or interventions involving the UCT community. The first step in your journey to using the UCT community or their data in your research is to obtain ethics clearance or approval from your faculty or departmental research ethics committee. Each faculty or department has their own domain or discipline-specific requirements for obtaining permission via the Research Ethics Committee. You should follow the rules and regulations of your department or faculty. In addition, you should also familiarize yourself with UCT's policies and procedures for ethical research, which are available on the UCT Policies website or the Office of Research Integrity website. I'd like to draw your attention to the Responsible Conduct of Research policy, which sets guiding principles for responsible and ethical research. The second step in your journey is to obtain permission to engage with the UCT community. If you would like to access students or their data, you will need to contact the Department of Student Affairs to seek their permission. You will need to complete a DSA 100 form and submit your approval letter from your faculty or departmental research ethics committee. If you would like to access staff or their data, you will need to contact Human Resources to seek their permission. You will need to complete the HR 194 form and submit your ethics approval letter from your faculty or departmental research ethics committee. If you are interested in using both UCT staff and students, you will need to get in touch with both DSA and HR. All the contact details are available on the website displayed on screen in front of you. And it's important to note that if you're using both UCT staff and students, that you can run the DSA and HR processes concurrently. This image shows you a detailed workflow for the steps you should take to access the UCT community for research purposes. I'd like to draw your attention to the different routes that your application might take while it is under consideration at HR. Please spend a few moments working your way through this workflow to fully understand the complete process that you will need to navigate before you can start your research. Lastly, I'd like to draw your attention to the notes in the top left corner, specifically that this simply represents the route through the system and does not assume that your application will be met with approval at each step. Approval should not be taken as a given. The other important point to note is that the UCT community are a very popular research population. There is an immense amount of research fatigue amongst the group. If people opt not to participate in your study, this choice must be respected. Permission to access data which the institution regularly collects for operational and institutional activities and quality assurance processes is required. The original collection of these data was not undertaken with the intention of using them for research purposes, and therefore without the usual protections associated with research data. These include, for example, but not limited to, student course evaluations and other course-based data. While these are a rich institutional data resource, there may nevertheless be ethical challenges associated with using these data in research. Some of these challenges include, but are not limited to, participants not being able to consent to their data being used through a traditional informed consent process and not being able to opt out of research. Therefore, researchers are required to submit an application to the appropriate faculty or departmental research ethics committee in order to make use of these data and to ensure that the data use and research is conducted in line with benchmarks for ethical research. I bet you're wondering what resources are available to you as the UCT community. Ethical and responsible conduct of research is critical for excellence, as well as public trust in research, and this is more true now than it was in 2020 when the policy was initially approved. Education and training in the responsible conduct of research is essential in the preparation of academic, research staff, research ethics committee members, and postgraduate students. The UCT community are encouraged to participate in RCR training opportunities as early as possible in their research careers, and they should make efforts to refresh this training on an ongoing basis. UCT, through the Office of Research Integrity, will provide resources to develop and provide relevant RCR training. If you want to see the current online asynchronous training that is available, please visit the RE website using the address on screen. We also collaborate with our colleagues in the Emerging Researcher Program, or ERP, to offer blended, that is, synchronous and asynchronous, learning opportunities each semester. If you wish to contact us, please use the contact details provided on this screen. Our email address is research.integrity@uct.ac.za. Thanks very much for taking the time to watch this video. We really do appreciate your role in raising awareness of the institutional policy environment. If you want to contact us, our details are available on the previous slide or on the website that you're viewing this recording on.